Okay, the bird crisis has been eliminated. I have a nest of starlings living in the vent above my stove. I have birds in my kitchen, and the mummy daddy, when they try and feed the fledglings, they're really stupid sometimes and they fly into my kitchen trying to get to the birds because the birds are living in the vent above my stove. Okay, one moment. Elizabeth, could you please not spray so much perfume all over the room?
I knew you were going to say that.
God. That being said, okay. So I have more to say on it because I just unlocked it and it just all flooded out and I went, "Oh, that makes so much sense." And now I see a new perspective shifting. So now I'm going to this is part 2 of the anxious avoidant codependent addict. This is where I'm ripping this apart. So you have this authority umbrella. Boom. I want you to imagine this authority umbrella. Okay. When we are abused, there is this shuffle of who gets the authority. And when you have people who are abused that are parenting children, they think that, oh, control, power, and safety relies on who has the authority. So abused mom and dad come in with unresolved trauma triggers, and they think if I collect the authority, then I'll be safe. So they take the authority from the child. And in their world, that also includes sometimes the identity. In most cases, it includes the identity. So the identity and the authority are taken away from the child. Now, you're supposed to give your child back authority in little spurts at a time based on their development, so that by the time the child is 15, 16, 17, 50% of the authority has been returned to the child. This is really important. Now, before I continue this, I'm going to say I have 3 children ranging between the ages of 15 and 20. I know my shit when it comes to kids. That being said, my 15-year-old has about 50% of her authority back. She is not allowed to get the tattoos she wants because I am not going to sign off on a permanent tattoo on a teenager. She is allowed to dye her hair. She is allowed to style her hair and style her clothing any way she wants. That's her authority given back to her. She's allowed to go wherever she wants within a certain mile radius. So if she wants to go to the store alone, she can. If she wants to stay after school, she has to let me know, but she gets to choose that for herself. If she's not feeling well, she gets to choose if she should take the day off. She gets to choose which TV she wants to watch. I let her know, look, you're allowed to. This was tapered, by the way. So by the time she reached 15, it was okay. You get to choose your bedtime. You get to choose what TV you watch, but there's a responsibility that comes with this. And we're back to the authority responsibility. Kids are such a great example for this. They really are. So what I explained to her, for instance, she's watching the show Shameless. Now, I won't watch the show Shameless because there's content in there that I'm not comfortable with. And I told her, look, I don't feel comfortable with you watching the show, but you have to learn how to monitor your own television viewing. So be mindful. Now, she knew exactly what I was referring to, the sex content. And she says, oh, yeah, I fast forward right over those. I skip those completely. So she actually uses responsibility with her own TV viewing because she learned what makes her uncomfortable. She learns what she's not okay with. And she has taken deliberate action to skip the parts that make her uncomfortable. So she is watching Shameless, but she's able to edit her television viewing in a way that she's comfortable doing, which is exactly what you want. So by the time she's 18 and she has more authority back, she's making wiser decisions that reflect what is best to preserve her identity and preserve her mental health. So and that's the way it should be. Now, she's my third child. With my first daughter, trial and error. I'm sorry, Emily. But that's the way it goes. Your first child is trial and error. And I was huge on how much strict, and this is where you have your strict and your lax parenting. Too lax, and the child feels insecure and they're running all over the place. Too strict, and they feel suppressed. And this is the core of attachment styles. You need to get that just right so they have enough freedom. You need to be lax just enough so that they feel secure, but you need to be a little strict and a little structured so that they feel secure. So there's like the secure section of parenting. And then over here, there's the insecure section of parenting. Unfortunately, most of us were raised in the insecure sections of parenting. Your father may have been severely strict, your mother may have been severely lax. That is still not only so now, not only do you have the insecure section of parenting, but you also have contradicting and inconsistent parenting. So it makes it even more insecure. And these are parents who gave you too much authority too soon, or they hoarded all of your authority and never gave it back to you. That's when you get a 40-year-old person still arguing with mommy and daddy over what decisions you get to make. And you can't make those decisions because mommy and daddy still have the authority, even though you're 40 years old. Now, that's what we call a narcissistic parent lording your authority over you that you should have gotten back when you were 15 and 16 years old. Bad parenting. Now you're looking at anxious attachment, avoidant attachment styles, because you were raised in the insecure section of parenting where it was either too strict or too lax, and you weren't in that little section there. Mine was both too strict and too lax. So now I'm both. And I was disorganized, anxious attachment. I had a severe, absolutely ignored me to the point where I was invisible. And then I was overly strict, overly controlled with other things. And my brother, the 10-year-old boy, was in charge of all of it because he was the narcissist that dominated the triangle. So my brother was actually the authoritative figure in the household. And what he said went, and he ruled the roost. And my mother and my father controlled me or ignored me and catered to my brother, who was in control. So as a result, I grew up with anxious avoidant attachment style, disorganized attachment style, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic abuse syndrome, and apparently codependency. Now, that all being said, this is all about authority. This is 100% about authority and an imbalance of responsibility. So you have people who were basically, you're an avoidant if you had, I'm still trying to figure this out. You're an avoidant if you are pushing away from responsibility, if you are avoiding responsibility, and you associate responsibility with authority and you're averse to it, that this is an imbalance. And then on this side of it, the anxious, you associate getting your authority back. And I guess that's it, is we're really trying to get our authority back. So the avoidant says, I'll get my authority back if I avoid responsibility. And they're very standoffish to it because they don't want the authority. I'm still trying to figure this out. I know I'm contradicting it because I'm trying to find what feels right. So this is exploratory dialogue. And then over here, the anxious, and I can speak from this one because this is where I am, and I know this, is the anxious wants to contain the authority. They're confusing authority with responsibility. And that's where you get that confusion of control. And it's interesting because my avoidant is absolutely, he loves control, but he associates control with controlling himself, controlling his distance, controlling his avoiding. And it's when you mistake control for authority that you have that disconnect. And that's where they feed off of each other. So the question is, how do you restore the balance? How do you break the symbiotic relationship and restore balance? Both parties have to step forward and use their authority and take back their authority. Now, my authority was taken from me. Oh, that makes so much sense because I craved responsibility. I would get into my mom left when I was 15 years old. She divorced my father. And when she left, my father did this whole, he'd be at work and every day at the same time, he'd call and say, hey, you need to get out of bed. Hey, you need to get out of bed. And I would get mad at him. And I would say to him every morning, why are you checking in on me? I'm the responsible one. And I was responsible, but he would not validate that because he had my responsibility. He treated me like I was irresponsible. And he never, ever validated that I was independent and capable and responsible. He literally denied my authority. So that was the relationship I had with my father, is he refused to acknowledge my authority. And there was nothing, no matter how responsible I became, he refused to give me my authority. He refused. I had my authority. I walked all over New York City. I was independent. I was super independent because I had to prove to my father, look, I'm responsible. I have my authority. And my father kept going, no, you're still a stupid kid. You didn't have your authority. You're still a stupid kid. And here I am at 40. And for the first time at my son's graduation on Monday of this week, I remember, like, I walked up to my father. I was not expecting him to be there. And when I walked up to him, I gave him a hug and I said to him, I've grown up. And I felt it. I felt like I had my authority finally. And I had taken it back from him. I had my authority. I claimed it. And I stepped into this role of responsibility. And when I did that, yeah, this is where, okay, I have my responsibility. I have my authority. I can pay my own bills. I can take care of my own house. I can take care of my own children. I can manage this. And it's proving to me that I'm responsible. But then you put me with my partner, and my partner is absolutely an avoidant. So he's going the other extreme way with it, where he's going, I don't want responsibility. I don't want anything to do with responsibility. I don't want the authority. You have the authority and I'm safer. That's my comfort zone. My comfort zone, and comfort zones are simply where you feel safe enough to have power. That is where you are psychologically safe. So for me, I associate my power and control with having responsibility. An avoidant associates having power and control by having the freedom, by not having responsibility. And I'm wondering if it's because they were given responsibility too soon. And as a result, it put them in a position. I'm wondering this. I have to check if they had too much responsibility too soon. I need to find some avoidance. Too much responsibility too soon. See, no, I had too much responsibility too soon, but it wasn't validated by my parents. It was the acknowledgement of my parents. Maybe his parents, and hypothesis, I'm guessing, maybe his parents told him that, oh, you can make your choices, but he wasn't ready for it. I think that's what it was. He was not ready. They gave it to him too soon. Responsibility was acknowledged too soon. Acknowledged too soon, you become an avoidant. If the authority is not acknowledged soon enough, acknowledged, by the way, given or acknowledged, then you become an anxious. Yeah, I think that's it. And then when we grow up, you could end up, and there's this hypothesis of, oh, well, all anxious attachments attract to all avoidance. All empaths attract to narcissists. That's not true. I have seen narcissists team up with narcissists. I have seen empaths team up with empaths. I have seen avoidance team up with avoidance. I have seen attachments or anxious team up with anxious. So this is another psych lie where the psychology field says that it's polar opposites attract. No, it doesn't. You can get all variations. My first husband was an avoidant. He was a vulnerable narcissist avoidant. My second husband was a grandiose narcissist anxious attachment. I was an empath codependent anxious for both of them. My third, I'm going to call him husband. My third is an empath avoidant. So this whole bullshit about, oh, well, they only attract, no, that's not true. You can end up with any kind of a combination. But this is all about the authority and the responsibility. And when it was given to you in connection to, in addition to that, it's also which side of the spectrum were you raised on? Were you in the secure stage where you had just enough structure and just enough lax? Or was it too strict in the insecure style? Or was it too lax in the insecure? Or was it the contradicting parents doing both? Or was it one parent doing too much of one way or the other? The parents were imbalanced. So you did not grow up in that secure, beautiful, sweet spot where you were given the right amount of authority and responsibility at the right time. Now, with my daughter, my oldest daughter, didn't know this. She was given too much. I think with my daughter, she was given too much responsibility too soon. I got to think about this with Emily. Do you think Emily or Elizabeth, do you think Emily was given too much responsibility too soon? Do you think as she grew up that she was allowed to do things that you weren't allowed to do, that she was allowed to do a lot? Or do you feel like her upbringing was more strict than yours?
Well, mine was way more strict than hers.
Yours was strict. Okay.
But then again, we were like 6 years apart.
You're 6 years apart. Do you remember her treatment when she was 15? Do you feel you have more responsibility at 15 than she had at 15? Compare her 15 to your 15.
Oh yeah, I've definitely got a better situation here.
Okay, so according to Elizabeth, now she's my third daughter and she's 15 now. She says that she definitely has the better situation. Emily was way too strict. Emily was not given responsibility at 15.
Yeah.
You're right, she was not. Daniel, I think, was given more.
I have a phone now too.
Yeah, you were given the phone. Emily did not have the phone. So my first daughter, thank you. My first daughter was not given enough responsibility. So she was too strict. We were too strict on her, which is common for the first child. The second child, my son, he was given more freedom. And then my third daughter, my third child, my second daughter, she was given much more freedom. And the difference I'm seeing with them is Emily did go into a rebellion stage. Daniel is different because he was abused differently, so he was always rebelling and he was always fighting against the suppression that he had me being lax, and it was a mess. But my 15-year-old, she's definitely given, it's interesting because she definitely has a lot of responsibility and a lot of authority. She has a lot of choice to play around with that, but I'm also giving her stable security. So like I'm with her every day, I'm making sure that she's got the security that she needs, she's feeling safe. So it's that balance of making sure she's getting enough support. This is it, getting enough support while giving the authority. But the support is basically the training wheels, but the authority and the responsibility is the bicycle. So this is it right here. When you have a child, you want to make sure you should have gotten training wheels, that support, while you were given the authority and the responsibility to exercise it as needed while you were being supported, so you could learn how to ride the bicycle. And that is that sweet spot of getting secure attachment style. Now, my 15-year-old has no interest in boys. She's not interested in dating. She's also a Virgo. She's absolutely like, I don't need a man to complete me. I don't need a relationship to define who I am. She's already showing symptoms of being a solid, secure attachment style already. Whereas my son and my oldest daughter especially, define themselves by their relationships. So already they have done the projection of, I need security, I'm seeking a parental role, I'm seeking the authority or the responsibility. And my oldest daughter is absolutely severe she's wanting to be a neurosurgeon. So she seeks out the highest responsibility job, the highest authority she can get, so that she can feel control. That's one of her reasons for, like, that's definitely symptomatic. That's what I've noticed. That's not her actual reason. That's what I'm noticing, like symptom wise. Whereas my son is on walkabout and he doesn't know who he is yet. He's got, like I said, he's got a lot more mental problems that this is just, yeah. So I can definitely see where this is it. So what this comes down to is that balance between support, and that's the other one of it, is you want support, which is the training wheels, from the parents while you gain the authority and the responsibility. So as an adult with attachment styles, codependency, addiction, you basically need to recreate that for yourself. I believe this is the cure for addiction. I believe this is the cure for codependency. I believe this is the cure for attachment style, is you need to give yourself support while utilizing and exercising authority and responsibility. And the more I exercise authority and responsibility, the more I'm going to stop being codependent and projecting that onto my partner. So my partner can go have his life independent of me, and I can focus on exercising my authority roles and taking responsibility. Booyah! That I think is it. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm at 20 minutes now with this video. And I think that wrapped it up. Like I have a lot here to process, and I'm probably going to be doing this all day long as I realize more. I love research days. I really love research days. Yeah. And then I'm going to write all this down. And once I put it through some tests, I'm going to put it through patient 0, and I'm going to monitor my own behavior and see how it reflects. If you want to jump in on this and apply it to yourself, by all means, I would love to talk to you about your data. So I'm probably going to create a Facebook group right now off of this, where we're going to learn and study and explore anxious attachment styles and anxiety and authority and responsibilities all on our own. And we're going to really hone into this. So if you want to participate in the study that I'm doing, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. And we're basically going to enter into a massive dialogue. It can be one-on-one if you want. And this is free. This is going to be a tier 1 because I'm collecting research. All of my stuff with research is absolutely a tier 1. And I do not do any medications. This is not take this medication and tell me how you feel. This is my theory. I want you to mindfully apply my theory to your life. And you tell me what you notice. You tell me how it's different. So for cognitive behavioral therapy, let's go back. I'm triggered. I feel problems with my partner. I feel triggered. I feel insecure. I feel threatened. I feel like unimportant. If I then step in and say, hey, I'm going to deliberately exercise my authority and my responsibility, that should be the cure to calming it down and diverting it successfully. Without marijuana, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm going to try this first without marijuana. And then if I need to, like maybe on bad days, maybe if it hits a certain level, then I'll apply it. So if you are interested in joining my research, I'll set it all up so you guys can sign up. You can get into the group and you can start comparing notes. This is not passive. So if you want to still try it and be quiet about it, by all means, you are welcome, of course. But I am looking for people who at least will share their results and talk to me directly. If you need it one-on-one, I can easily turn it down to accommodate the introverts. This is where I really want to hear back from you, because the more information I get from you, the more I can compare it to my own study, the more I can really go forward with it. So if you are having problems with your partner or your spouse, if you are in a position where you feel like you have to control them, or you're constantly feeling on edge, where you're constantly like your anxiety is up here because you feel suffocated, you're avoidant, or because you feel like I gotta hold them, I just feel like I can't control the situation, you are probably looking at your authority role has been compromised and you need to claim that back from your parents. So to do that, you have to prove to yourself using your voice and using your actions and using responsibility that, hey, you got this, you can do it. Absolutely. So this is going to be my homework for the next couple weeks, and I'm shooting for 2 weeks, because usually in 2 weeks I can resolve something like this once I understand the theory. So it is 16 June, and so the deadline for resolving this, and we're just going to watch to see how it goes, it's going to be the 30th of June. So I'm going to run this exercise from 16 June to the 30th of June and see how it goes from there. Okay? All right. So much. And links, of course, are always go join my Facebook page if you are this through any other source. If you are not already a member of the Healing Garden on Facebook, you need to be. That is tier 1. It's where everything is free, and it's where you'll just get into the loop. It's absolutely a wonderful place for resources. So go ahead, take a look there, and may the kindest of words always find you.